You've never called me that in your
No,
life.
I've never.
Kia ora mai tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Members, before the dinner break, we were debating the reports of committees relevant to the economic development and infrastructure sector. Ian Lees-Galloway had the call, and he has 3 minutes and 8 seconds remaining should he wish to avail himself of the privilege.
So wish.
Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before the dinner break, I was talking about the committee's report into the review of MB, and particularly the section that pertained to Immigration New Zealand. And in that report, some of the members raised concerns about the Investor Plus category and the lack of oversight of that category and the lack of information telling us whether or not the government's intentions for setting up that category, for setting up the system whereby wealthy migrants get to jump to the front of the queue ahead of everybody else, was actually working in New Zealand's interest. And one of the signs that there might be some issues with this category is the report that we got earlier this year that police investigated 2 American investors who brought their money into New Zealand through the Investor Plus scheme, but then withdrew their money into a different account from whence it came before they gained residency in New Zealand. And what police were interested in is, was this money laundering? Was New Zealand's immigration system being used to launder money? And the bit that concerns me is that Immigration New Zealand didn't pick up on this. It wasn't Immigration New Zealand who looked into this, it was the police who looked into this after, I think it was a tip-off from the bank where the money had been moved into. So immigration's oversight of that particular category, I don't think is up to muster, and I think the government should be resourcing and asking Immigration New Zealand to take a much closer look to make sure that the Investor Plus category is actually working in New Zealand's best interest. Because an immigration system that works in New Zealand's best interest is an immigration that works for us as the host country, but also works for the migrants themselves so that they get good outcomes. And it's not just the Investor Plus category that Immigration New Zealand is not looking closely enough at. In fact, it's all the categories, because we don't actually know what the outcomes are for a lot of migrants. And I look particularly at the skilled migrant category, because what we do know, not from research done by Immigration New Zealand, but from outside outside research that's been done, is that around 90% of people who apply to come to New Zealand under the skilled migrant category get work after 6 months. And that sounds quite good on the face of it. But what we don't know is whether or not they actually get work in the area for which they are skilled. And I look at 2 examples. I had a long conversation with a bloke who came from Egypt. He's a civil engineer. He's been in New Zealand for over a year, and he can't get work. He came to New Zealand under the impression that he was wanted here. He came to New Zealand under the impression that he had a skill that New Zealand needed, and yet he can't get work. I have to ask if our immigration system is working if people who come to New Zealand under the skilled migrant system are not able to get work.